You already know what it is. Live, uncut,
Uncut,
unedited.
unedited.
Tell the truth
And what?
and shame the devil.
I
I
love being
love
black.
being black.
All right, people, come on in. Come on in. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Come on in. Come on in. I have a special guest tonight, and she's going to teach us, educate us, all above. Now, we probably won't be taking no live calls. So I need you guys to come on in, my YouTube people and my Facebook people. I need you to start, like, and share this live video. This is live, uncut, and unedited. And I got Walonza, right?
That's right.
That's I want to make sure. Miss Lee,
That's
the
it.
executive director right here in the house. In the house. We're just gonna
Hey.
get warmed up a little bit. I'm gonna greet a couple of guests, and I want to give a shout out to Teamwork Inglewood for sponsoring this today, for allowing and using me in this podcast to come here and share some needed information for our community, for
That's
people
right.
that look like us, people that look like us. So I'm waiting for a few more people to come in, and I'd like to acknowledge a few more guests, those of you that's in, and I appreciate you coming in. Just come on in, and we're gonna get started. We got about 20 people so far, YouTube and Facebook, and I need you guys to make sure you guys hit the like button and the share button. And I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. It's some things that she's going to tell us today, and it's going to be some things that we already know. So don't we not listen to understand. Do not listen to respond. We need you to understand. This is a matter of life and death.
That's right.
Am I right?
You're absolutely
Am I
right.
right?
You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Right. All right. Leslie Brown, how you doing, Leslie? I see you. We're going to get started. I'm going to give you about 3 more minutes and we're going to get started. Get started for more people to come in. And sometimes we have to repeat ourselves because people are like, well, what's the subject today? What's the subject?
Right.
What's the
Right.
subject today? What's the subject today? But we're going to get started. I'm not going to wait on anybody. I want to shout out to Teamwork Inglewood again, Mark Mitchell. And we just thank you guys for everything. All right, Miss Walonza Lee,
Hey,
Executive
everybody.
Director.
Hey, everybody. My name is Walonza, and I am the executive director of the Southside Heroin Opioid Task Force. I need to just tell you a little bit about the impact that it has on the African American community. Some of you may know, and others may not. 68% of the people that die from opioid overdoses are African American men between the ages of 45 and 64 years old. And recently, they put something in the news about there was a drop in overdose opioid overdoses in the community. Unfortunately, it was not in the African American community. And I think oftentimes we look at people who use substances a moral issue, and actually it isn't. It's a issue that is impacting our community. Is an issue that is affecting our community at an alarming rate. Addiction, disorders, substance use disorders is a medical issue, just as if you had diabetes. There are symptoms. You got physical and psychological implications that tell you that it's a medical issue. You know, oftentimes we got the stigma that if a person use that they're bad, that it's a choice, and oftentimes you have people who actually want to stop, just don't know how to stop. And that's one of the reasons why the Southside Task Force came into play. It was during 2020 when we were in the pandemic, and I was working for the city of Chicago, and I discovered the rate that African American men were dying, and just felt like I had to do something. And as a result of that, this was birth. And now where we're at today is that we're located on the south side of Chicago in our community on 87th Street, right across from the Walgreens, 87th and Stony Island, and we're doing the work. We're educating people. We're providing people with Narcan. We're providing people with harm reduction information and education. And I need to let you all know that when we talk about overdose as it relates to narcotics, it isn't just illicit drugs. For example, let's say that you have a grandmother or you got a mama that's 80 or 90 years old and they're on some form of medication and it's a narcotic and they forget that they took their medication at 8 o'clock that morning and they take it again at 8:30. Then at 8:30, then you walk in at 9 o'clock and you say, hey, Granny, hey, Mama, did you take your medicine? And they say, no, baby. You give it to them again. That is a potential overdose. That is why Narcan is important. That is why harm reduction is important in the African American community, because it is just not impacting those people that are on the streets using drugs.
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, often I know you probably stereotype your organization because they say, well, why are you passing out these things? You're encouraging people to use drugs. Explain that to us too, the importance of that.
See, so let me, when we think about harm reduction,
Right,
harm reduction, let me give you an example. Let's say that you're on a beach
right,
and you use sunscreen.
Right.
Well, why do you use sunscreen? Prevent from getting cancer.
right.
Let's say that you're in your car and you use a seatbelt. Well, why do you use that seatbelt? Because if you happen to have an accident, you're not thrown out of the car. So Narcan is used as a harm reduction until a person reaches a point till they're ready to do something different.
Mhm.
For example, we have to focus on saving a life until they're in a position to where they're ready to ask for the help.
Okay, I agree with that. Because people stereotype. Well, you encouraging that behavior. And to give you an example, when I used to talk to my older 3 girls, I haven't had to talk with my youngest yet. Dad need to know if you're having sex or not. Well, I don't feel comfortable. I said, I need to know if you know how to protect yourself. Now, I'm not giving you the green light to go out there and do it.
That's right.
But I need to tell you how to protect yourself. And so I look at that as the way you look.
Exactly. My point in case, we talk about birth control. Well, birth control is put in place actually for a young girl not to get pregnant and destroy her life.
Right.
We also look at condoms as a way of protecting you, preventing a person from getting HIV, because that's the other thing that we don't talk about in this community.
Right,
HIV is something that is impacting our community, and we're not lifting it up anymore. But guess who has the highest numbers of HIV/AIDS in the city of Chicago? African Americans, Black folks. Black folks. And see, what happens is, the news, we hear about it. They make this big hoopla, when it's impacting their community. But when it actually becomes really high in ours, and the only people who really get dying are being impacted and getting infected at an alarming rate, then we don't hear about it. Just like going back to heroin, going back to opioids. People aren't even using heroin today, y'all. People are using fentanyl, xylazine. This is animal tranquilizers. Xylazine is some form of plastic that people are using and overdosing. Do you know that's got a new one? It's called the Nextrine. It's 25% more potent than fentanyl. People aren't even trying to buy heroin today. People are getting in line to buy fentanyl. Now, that is alarming. And if you're not concerned, maybe it's not impacting you now, but later on down the line, let's say that your kid get a hold of a pill. Somebody bring them in school, get a pill, take a pill, and you don't have the Narcan. If you had the Narcan in your house, you could reverse that overdose. And so that's why it's important that we educate our community about opioid overdoses or overdoses from narcotics, because it is the African American community or Black community that is being impacted more than any other ethnic group in this city or probably in this country. But I can speak for the city of Chicago because I know, which is why I got into the fight. I worked for the city prior to taking over this piece. I was a director of all the substance use services for the city of Chicago when I discovered the numbers were so high and how people were dying at an alarming rate. When I did this, y'all, in 2000, the year 2000, they did the same study. And guess whose lives were being impacted by opioids in 2000? African-American men. But at that particular time, the age range was from 35 to 44. Now, we knew this. And they did the study actually on Stateway Garden, all up in State Street. They did this. So we knew that this was coming. We know that African-American men lives have been impacted by opioids for the last 20-some years, and we still don't have a change. And what it is oftentimes, y'all, there's a stigma. We look at our brothers and sisters whose lives have been impacted by any form of substance use disorders as being somebody, once again, that is moral, or they've made this choice, and that all they got to do is stop. Well, if it was that easy, why aren't they stopping? Now, let's say you smoke cigarettes, right? Can you just stop smoking your cigarettes? Well, that's a drug. It's nicotine. You develop a dependency on it. And what do you need to do to get to the other side? And how many times have you tried to stop and couldn't? So that is why we put things, harm reduction tools in place. Harm reduction such as methadone, Suboxone. Even when we looked at the recovery community looked at how people were they even had the stigma. These people yet were not using opioids, but they were coming in, but they had used methadone to try to keep them away from committing crimes so they could get a job, so they can control it. And we gave them a hard time even in the rooms. And I say we because I'm recovered. I don't care who knows it as long as I don't forget it. It's been 39 years. That's why I'm so passionate about this piece. I know the implications. I know that it's just not that easy to stop. If it was that easy to stop, we wouldn't have this problem. So we got to begin to take responsibility for the impact that this is having on our communities, opposed to shining a person and making them feel bad. And even the language we use when we look at a person, we call them a dope fiend, or a crackhead or a clucker. I don't even know what the new terms are. But actually, they're human beings that have a problem that need our support. We're pushing it like throughout the community. We're involving schools. We have every library in the city of Chicago has Narcan. That was a project that I worked on before I left the city of Chicago. All 81 Chicago libraries have Narcan in. You don't have to go in and ask for nothing. All you got to do is go in, lift up a box, take the Narcan, and take it home. And if you don't know how to use it, we have trainings here at the Southside Task Force, but not only here, throughout the city of Chicago. Now, let me tell you about the task force. The task force was designed to bring organizations together to collaborate, to deal with opiate overdoses, but not only that, the other ills, that social ills we deal with. We focus on linkage to care. We focus on homelessness. We focus on someone being hungry, not having clothes. It's just not about substance abuse.
Mm-hmm. Put a sign up there. And while you pause, we're going to go through some little questions. Just put it up there. You're located right where?
My address is 1629 East 87th Street. I'm on 87th, right off Stony Island, across from the Walgreens drugstore.
Do you have a telephone number?
Yes, our number is 773.
You put it up there. I'm going to put it in. Okay. 773
788
788
228
hold on, let me put a dash in there. 2822.
22. Yes.
All right. This is the South Shore, right?
This is in the
South Shore Task.
South Side.
Oh, South Side.
The South Side Task Force number. You call if someone needs help, someone needs assistance as it relates to opioids. But once again, not only that, we look at the impact that mental health on our community, mental health has on our communities. Mm-hmm. I often tell people that people were actually dealing with trauma while you're in a womb. As a Black woman, I carried a child dealing with the fact that I had a husband that was incarcerated and all the stress that I had to deal with carrying that child. Don't you know that had something, impact on that child? That child had already experienced some form of trauma and hadn't even been born. And then when we look at was this Reagan who just say no? When we had the crack epidemic, when they began to take our babies from us, drugs and alcohol has been a problem since the 40s and 50s. No. Drugs and alcohol have been a problem in the African-American communities when they brought us over here, while we were yet on the plantation, when we had to experience the Jim Crow, when we had to go through the red lining. Anything we've experienced as African-American people, we have tried to find some way to numb it and not feel it. And that's where we're at today. It's almost like this. If you are dealing with a situation and you don't deal with it, all you're doing is packing something on top of something else.
They want to know your name, too.
My name is Walanza. That's Walanza Lee.
I'll post it up right quick. Go ahead. That's it right there.
So, we just need to come together as a community to really understand that these are our brothers and sisters standing on the corner. These are our brothers and sisters, our daughters, our nieces and our nephews and our cousins whose lives have been impacted by opioid addiction. We go inside of Cook County Jail every Saturday. We train women and men inside the county on Narcan. We give them Narcan going outside the door because they might just have to save a life. So, it's always, that old saying is better to have it and not need it and not have it. That's really what this is all about, you guys. But over here at the Southside Heroin Opiate Task Force, what we do is work with a number of agencies that actually provide social services on the south side of Chicago. We're talking about linkage to care. We're talking about housing. We're talking about mental health services. We're talking about treatment on demand. Treatment on demands is called Mars Now. Now, Mars Now is, let's say that I have a person that comes to this door, Martin, and they want to get off of heroin today and they want some form of treatment. I can call the organization, the agency to come here. They'll pull up their van, get them treated right there on the spot. That is treatment on demand. That is what we're doing. So we're 65 to 70 agencies, over 100 some odd people working together to combat this opioid epidemic that is actually killing the Black men in our community.
I want to say this too. I know you're the professional in this, but I had a father that used. I had a brother who was my oldest brother, was a heroin. I have another oldest brother that he was caught up in drugs. He's back and forth, back and forth. So I'm quite sure every last one of us knows someone,
That's
a family
right.
member. Now, I ain't going to say a friend that's using or have used,
That's
or
right.
you haven't even had an overdose.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I think I mentioned to Martin earlier, I saved my brother's life. I have a brother that's been clean now 2 years, but I just happened to go over to my mother's house on this particular day, and he had overdosed off of what was supposed to be heroin, but definitely laced with fentanyl. And I had to use the Narcan that was in my car to bring him back. To life and wait for the EMTs to get here to take him to get there to take him to the hospital. So it affects all of us. And I need to say that Narcan is harmless. You can give Narcan to a baby and it won't harm them. And even if you see someone that has overdosed, that have experienced an overdose, and you decide to help them, you don't even have to worry about the law. We're covered by what they call the Good Samaritan law. Right. Back in the day, if a person got high and they overdose, what you would do, you leave them or drag them outside. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. What you can do is you can actually save their life and be there when the police get there. Now, look, if you got drugs and stuff on your hands, I would suggest that you get rid of the extra drugs that you have because you are going to go to jail. But actually helping a person and saving their lives, you have nothing to worry about because you are protected by the Good Samaritan law.
And that is so true. I mean, I came through, I sold drugs for 5 years of my life. I never was a user, but I prayed and asked God to forgive me because I didn't really have no reason to sell. I just wanted, because it was the thing to do. So imagine the impact that I put on the Black community. I sold it right here on the south side of Chicago, nothing that I'm proud about or bragging about. And if I had to do it all over again, I say I wouldn't touch it.
I agree.
I wouldn't touch it. And I was a dealer. I never got arrested, never told on nobody or anything. Not to my knowledge, nobody never OD'd on what I sold, but I hate it.
Well, I actually did both. I used and I sold. And I kind of look at, since I've been clean, I have given back. I remember telling God the day that I wanted to turn my life around, and I actually snorted cocaine, and I was addicted to cocaine. But I remember telling God that if he brought me out of it, I would help every man, woman, boy, girl he's brought my way. And to this day, I've kept my word.
Look at it. She don't look like, to me.
To this day,
I'm going to be real honest with you. I've just met you. I know your husband, and I've interviewed him as well. But you never use anything. Seriously.
And let me tell you how we get caught up. Because I thought that cocaine was, it was supposed to be like non-addictive. It was supposed to be a high for the bougie folks, right? Well, I need to tell you that cocaine does not have no respective person. It is addicted. You will become addicted. And that's what I got. That's how I got hooked up. I was afraid to touch heroin or anything else because I always saw them as being addictive. that my thought about cocaine was totally different. And I need to say this now that we're talking about cocaine and marijuana and the other, you all need to know that marijuana, cocaine is being laced with fentanyl. People are actually ODing and dying snorting cocaine. I think about a year ago, there was a party where actually 5 people had actually overdosed and they had used cocaine that had been laced with fentanyl.
Wow.
So this thing is real. Even the marijuana that you're passing around and people using it, they've legalized it, but you have some people that still want to have a larger margin and profit that's lacing it with fentanyl. So you guys got to be extremely careful. And that is why, once again, it's important that we focus on harm reduction while we're educated, while we know the impact that it has, that God did not intend. He really didn't intend for us to go out like this. But when you look at the African American community, you look at your brothers and sisters on the corner, and sometimes it hurt my heart. And I'd be like, what can I do differently what can I do differently to help these individuals? You know what I mean? But I'm doing all I can do. But I'm only one person.
Right.
It's that old adage that it takes a village. It does. We are a village. Had we been born in Africa, the first thing we would have been given, guys, is our cosmic name, who depicts who we are as an individual. For instance, my name is Ajwa. I would have been an Ajwa. Ajwa means I was born on a Monday. I find good in everybody. When a person say that community, that person is no good, I'm the one that says that if we pull together, we can lift that person up or lift that community back up. That is who we are innately, guys. We are people that have hearts, that are compassionate, that believe in tribes. That's why when we stand on the corner, we stand on the corner in a hurdle. It's like 5 or 6 of us because we're tribal people. We're naturally entrepreneurs. If we only knew our strengths and who we are and where we came from, you would be surprised of what we could do. You understand what I'm saying? As a people. But you cannot put down your sisters and brothers that are experiencing a hardship right now. But for the grace of God, there goes I. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because when you think about it, we all didn't experience something. Everybody has been and something, has experienced something. It may not have been drugs. It could have been shopping. It could be sex. Sex is addictive. Think about it. I'm a stress shopper. I'll be the first to tell you when I'm going through, I switched addictions from snorting cocaine to shopping. But there's a balance. You reach a point in your life where you have to create a balance. And that's why it's important for you guys to get involved, for you guys to go to a Narcan training, for you guys to carry Narcan in your car or in your purse, because you never know who you may see that is experiencing. Now, let me tell you some of the signs and symptoms as it relates to.
Did you have some around available?
Of course I do.
Okay, I don't want to throw you off. Just show me. I can get it for you.
Actually, I'd have to go in the bag.
Okay, but go ahead. I don't want to break your stride.
Actually, how you can recognize that a person is overdosing. Usually, what happens is that they're breathing. They have shallow breathing. If they're black, they're usually got a grayish or ash tone. If they're white, their tone becomes blue or purplish. They are unresponsive. And so what you do is you ask them if they're okay. You don't get a response. What you do is you actually take this Narcan and you insert it in one of their nostrils, wait 2 to 3 minutes. If there's no response, and while you wait between the 2 or 3 minutes, either you or someone else will call 911. You take another one and you can insert it in the other nostril. So there's actually 2 at each kit. Now I can tell you, you can use this over and over. You can give a person up to 8 to 10 doses of Narcan
I didn't know that.
to bring them back.
Okay.
And what happens with people will say, well, how does it reverse it? Well, what happens is the opioid or whatever the substance is attaches itself to the receptors in our brain.
Okay.
Right? And so when you administer the Narcan, what it does is go right in and block it. It goes right to the receptors and block it, and it causes a person to come right out. But now when you administer this Narcan, you got to be real careful because they're going to wake up mad as HELL. Some of them want to fight. And so you got to step back because you don't know how they're going to respond and react. But that's not important. What is important is that you have saved a life. And I'm sure some of you guys have walked down the street and you've seen people who are leaning on a fence or laying on a park bench and you wonder if they're okay. Well, some of those people are actually experiencing overdoses. You know, what we did was back in June, and 70th and Jeffrey, from 67th and Jeffrey to 75th and Jeffrey now has all just about became what we call the corridor.
Okay.
A corridor is where you know you're going to find some drugs along that
Okay.
strip. So we did an event in June on 70th and Jeffrey, and we were able to assist over 250 people. But there was a guy that we witnessed overdosing in front of us, and we were able to help that day. Yeah, that day,
Right.
that morning. And when you go up and down on Jeffrey, 70th and Jeffrey, it is alarming. It's alarming. It's heart-wrenching. But what we got to do is we got to have boots on the ground. So I have a team of people that actually go out into the communities every day of the week. And we have 9 areas in which we cover. We cover South Deering, South Shore, Washington Heights, Chatham, Auburn Gresham, Roseland, Woodlawn, Inglewood are the areas that we are actually concentrating and focusing on trying to help
No
them
west
turn
side, no west side.
no West Side, because we are the South Side Task
Okay,
Force.
that's right.
So now there's a West Side Task Force, and their corridor is, I'm sure some of you guys know, Pulaski and Madison. That's their corridor. You know that you're going to find some form of substance on Pulaski and Madison. And so here on the South Side, they kind of look at us as not really having such a huge problem as the West Side. Well, I'm kind of like this. Why don't we put the cart before the horse? If we don't have such a huge problem, why don't we provide the education and information that we know so we can meet it up front,
Right.
so it doesn't become as bad as the West Side?
Right.
You know, so a lot of energy and emphasis has been put on the West Side, but we need to really focus on and putting that same energy here on the South Side that we're putting on the West Side. You know, yesterday we had an event where we did a kit building. We built kits for fentanyl, screening fentanyl and xylazine, because those are the 2 substances that are out right now.
So what is xylazine? What is that? I've never heard of that.
Xylazine is another form of it's not an animal tranquilizer. It's some form, I believe, some plastic or something that's made out of.
Putting that in drugs
And they're
now?
putting it in. No, they're straight out selling it,
Oh,
because it ain't
wow.
really no real drugs, y'all.
Okay.
Ain't no heroin really on the street. Think about it. You got people lining up, Martin, for fentanyl, straight fentanyl. People know that these substances that are on was supposed to be heroin, and yet they're injecting it.
They're injecting it?
They inject it, they inhale it. Yeah.
So
So
how long that drug been existing that you know of? I've never heard of that.
I want to say xylazine, I want to say maybe about the last 2 years,
Wow.
there's been a buzzword about it, but there's a new one that's called, it starts with an N, Nexaline, something like that. That's new. Actually, there was on the news about 5 people actually overdosing in Humble Park.
Wow.
Well, they were using it Nexaring. And so it's out. It just haven't hit our side of town yet, but guess what, y'all? It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. So if you see a sister or brother on the corner that's passing out Narcan and want to give you a little information and provide some education about the impact that these substances have on our community, accept the Narcan. You never know when you'll be able to need to help somebody. Accept the Narcan, give them, ask them how you can help. Ask us how you can volunteer. We need a lot of people. We need boots on the ground. We need churches to get involved in this. We need churches, because we all know that the African American community, the church is the drums.
Yeah.
They're the messengers. Now we got a few churches on board. My Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, and I got to give them a shout out. Fellowship Chicago on 45th and Princeton, as an advocate, they support whatever I do in that church around recovery. Then you have Trinity. You got Reverend Moss that is supportive. Then you got Pastor Javon Moore. He was the first church on the South Side that allowed us to put Narcan in.
Wow.
He actually has a canister full of Narcan on 70th and Jeffrey to allow people to come and just take as many as you like. because once again, it's all about saving lives. By no means are we promoting people to use. What we're doing is we're saving a life until a person reaches a point and say, I've had enough
No.
and I want to do something different,
Beautiful.
opposed to them just dying off because of the stigma, because of how we judge them. We want to put a person in a position to respect their right that they want to get high. Now that might not sound right, and some people may disagree with me on that, but we have to give a person the right to decide that they want to use a substance, just as to give them the right to decide when it's time for them to go into recovery.
That is
Now, let me tell you something.
Oh, I'm
Some
listening.
years ago, I
You
wouldn't have.
educate me, y'all.
I wouldn't have agreed to that.
Really?
I would have agreed completely to total abstinence. But when I think about it, and I've been in the field for a little over 36 years, but when I think about as many people that was discharged from programs
Mhm.
because they could not stop getting high, because we were uneducated, because we did not really understand that it was a medical condition just like anybody
Right.
else. You get diabetes, right?
Right.
Well, you can't just stop diabetes. And look, for those of you that's got diabetes, let me think about that. They tell you to stop eating sugar, but you keep on eating sugar, and diabetes get worse. So much so now until they said that dementia or Alzheimer's is a type 3 now. So come on, it's the same
I got
thing,
another question.
y'all.
I have another question. I
All
don't mean
right,
to
I'm
interrupt
listening.
you.
That's okay.
Tell me what age bracket that most African American men and women die from overdose. What's the age?
The age bracket, the age range right now is between 45 and 64 years old in the African American community. In the Caucasian community, it's a little bit younger. Their people are actually between the ages of 25 and 34. But in our community, it's 45 to 64 years old. And then I need you guys to know that 70% of overdoses actually occur in the homes. You heard me talk about our granny or our mother that's up in age that takes extra medication. Well, they're experiencing overdoses. You got 12 to 50% of individuals who use opioids across Black, white, Latino, and Asian populations. And 20% of those people who use drugs have mental health illnesses in their lifetime. So what they're trying to do is medicate, create some type of normalization for them, because oftentimes they don't feel normal. And smoking weed or using a drug kind of balances out, stop the voices, help with the anxiety. And see, we don't understand it. And when we don't understand it, once again, what do? We judge them and we put stigmas on them when we need to understand that it's bigger than that. And then policing is a racial issue as it relates to substance use. Because you think about it, it was a time that if I had 3 grams of crack and a Caucasian person had 3 grams of cocaine, he got more, I got more time than them. So it's a racial issue. If you were to see somebody that's overdosing and you actually take the steps and you use the Narcan, you check them to see if they are okay, if they're responsive. If they're not, you administer the Narcan. You put them in a position that, like a fetus position.
Oh, we got a rebuttal.
Okay.
He says, "No, lady, you're mistaken. There is so many teenagers who are hooked on heroin. It will make your head spin starting at 14, 15 years old. And I have seen a lot of these teens, OD, even in front of my face. And it's all around the cities and the birds."
Okay, well, you know what? I don't know that. I can't, I'm not going to disagree with you. If you have seen that, can you tell me what particular areas you're talking about? If you're saying all around the city, why don't you put in the chat where? Because it would be interested, and I actually would take it to the city, and we would actually do some work and do some research and put boots on the ground to look for those teens that you're talking about. Now, I do agree with you that they are a number of teens and younger people that die from overdoses. Last year or December, no, year before last, I did a training for the DEA. The doctor and I that were working together. And yeah, there were a number of young children who had overdosed off of some form of fentanyl from taking a pill or taking something. So there are a number of young people that are dying, but the highest rate and I'm going to say this again, the highest rate of overdoses in the African American community is 45 to 64 years old. And the highest rate of overdoses in the Caucasian community is between the ages of 25 and 34.
Mhm. Wow, good information. Good information. And maybe there are some young people that want to come aboard and
Mhm.
help and volunteer or even get hired and get out here. It's work need to be done. It's
It
work.
is. It is. I've got an 11-year-old grandson, and my 11-year-old grandson know about this work. He is so informed because we want him to know what he has to face in this world, in the community, what he would have to experience. So we're not hiding any of this from him. We're letting him know that people die, people get addicted to drugs, alcohol, and alcohol is a drug. Let me put that out there too. We've got a lot of our young people that are actually
Mhm.
addicted to alcohol. And that's something else that we're not talking about. That's something else that we're sweeping under the rug. How often do you hear them saying that when our young children are going to parties or going wherever they're going, that alcohol is always involved? So once again, it is a community issue. It is a city issue. It is a state issue. It is a world issue. When you look at the nation and you look at the impact that any form of drugs have on our community, something needs to be done.
Mm. Somebody, Jamila said there was a
Mhm.
truck on Pulaski today by Fillmore giving out Narcan. So
That's
true.
right. That's so true.
That's so true.
Hmm.
And then, before we go any little further, tell us a little bit about yourself and your degrees and your
Okay.
profession and all that, because I know I want to let people know she is truly a professional, and not only that, she have experience. She was once a user, so that makes her even more qualified.
And not only that, the people that work for me are
Mhm.
people with lived experience.
Mm.
Everyone that's on the Southside Task Force is a person that has experienced some form of addiction, because they know they can go out there and they can tell people what's really going on and what's happening. Now, we will allow people that are non addicted to become a part of the team and support us and volunteer and even donate if they want to, because we got a fight on our hands and we got to continue to put money in front and do what we need to do so that we can continue to do this work and put this stuff out in the community. And when I say stuff, I mean harm reduction tools, harm reduction kits. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, middle class family. Both parents was in the home. I just happened to marry somebody whose family is totally different than mine. His mom and daddy, they lived a life. Mama was a barmaid, daddy was a drug dealer. I could go in their house and sit on the bar and smoke a joint, and I thought I had arrived, honestly, because it was so totally different from my family, because we traveled together, church, the whole 9 yards. Um, and I started using it at 21. I stopped at 25 because somewhere in my brain, I always feel like by the time you're 25, whatever you was doing crazy, you need to stop. It was set in my mind. So at 25, it was over. And so I went and I got the help that I needed, and I haven't looked back. And like I said, I've been clean 39 years. It'll be 40 years in the next 6 months. I'll have 40 years of uninterrupted recovery.
Oh, wonderful.
I have a associate degree in addiction studies. I have an undergrad degree in behavior science, and I have a master's in psychology. I am certified as a CAADC. What does that mean? I'm a certified advanced addiction drug counselor. And then I have my CO DP, which means that I'm a co-occurrent professional. I'm a disorder professional, which I'm able to provide services to anyone whose life has been impacted by any form of substance use or mental health disorder. So this is real for me.
Also, she's the executive director.
And also, I am the executive director of the Southside Heroin Opioid Task Force. And this work has really, y'all, been a labor of love. And I say that because I understand the impact that addiction has on a person's life. I've saw and seen and witnessed mothers and children's separated from one another, never coming back together. I've witnessed people ODing. I've had clients that have committed suicide. You know, personally in my own family. Martin talked about his family, but addiction was in mine. My sister was a heroin addict. And guess what, y'all? She couldn't get it, but she helped me get it. Because when I needed help, I went to my sister, and my sister had a treatment program waiting for me when I finally surrendered. But what I could get, she couldn't get. And so she died as a result of her addiction. And so the complications from her addiction, because she developed cirrhosis of the liver, which metastasized and became a cancerous. So she died from liver cancer. Sure.
Jamila said, how can a person be supportive to her and her team, possibly to volunteer?
Okay, here we go. What's your name, Jamila? Hey, Jamila, we would love to have you become a part of the Southside Task Force. Our phone number is 773-788-2822. My email is Walonza, that's WALONZA, at southsidetaskforce.org. So please shoot me an email, make a call, leave a message, and I will certainly get back with you. And I appreciate you wanting to support and help us do this thing.
Also, we were talking earlier before we got started, and you told me you just hired a Hispanic lady.
Yes, because okay, I just one of the things that I said I wanted to do was help anybody within our community whose lives have been impacted. Well, we know that we've got Black and brown people that have begun to blend. So I just thought it would just be befitting to have someone that spoke their language, because we don't want language barriers, that could educate them and provide the same information to them as if I would to someone that was Black. So she actually starts, her first day will be December the 2nd here on the task force. And like I said, it's boots on the ground. We're all over in those neighborhoods that I talked about, or the communities that I talked about. I have a team that go out, and it's boots on the ground. Now it's getting kind of cold. So this is the other way that you can help us. There are a number of organizations that really need to train their staff and their clients or their workers on Narcan, how to distribute, how to implement it, and how to administer it. We're doing trainings on the inside and in-house now, because it's going to be too cold for the guys and the young ladies to be out on the street. So if you know of some agencies and organizations that churches, schools, actually we've been working really well with Walgreens and CVS, setting it up for them to come, because this is a community effort. You know, so if they need to come in and train somebody on diabetes and hypertension, the space that we have is open to them, open to the community. I mentioned to Martin that the funds that I have aren't mine. They weren't set aside for Walonza. The money was given to me to help the community. So the money belongs to the community, not Walonza. This space we're in doesn't belong to me. So I've set it up to be a community space. Let's say that somebody on the South Side want to do a training or do some artwork with some kids or do something to involve youth to get them off the street. This space, you're welcome to use it as long as you treat it right, respect it right, and the kids come in and do what they need to do. And then it could be adults that may want to take an art class. It's open to the public. This is community space. And I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Is there anything, last thing you want to say to the audience, and how could they reach you again? I put the number on the screen.
Okay, once again, Martin has put the number on the screen. That is our task force number. My email address, once again, is Walonza at southsidetaskforce.org. And shoot me an email. Give me a phone call. I promise I'll get back with you.
Can I mention your husband's name?
Sure you can.
We call him Benny Lee, but it's Bennett Lee. But everybody know. I believe I interviewed her husband sometime last year. I think I did him twice. And he's an amazing guy, straight from the streets, educated, teaching in university. And now I got a chance to interview his wife. I was like, man, shout out to my brother. Shout out. I just want to shout out. I want to give a shout out to Teamwork Inglewood for allowing to make this happen.
Mark.
Mark,
Mark, yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. And this has been a wonderful learning, teaching session. But before you leave, I need you to grab some of them packages and show how they look. And I'll be waiting on you. I'll
One
talk to
moment.
them.
Okay.
All right. And you know, it's nothing like having a professional that study in this area, that know all about this particular area, and can give us great information, give us numbers and things like that. People, this is real. A lot of people don't like to talk about overdose and things like that, and they don't want. None of us want our loved ones to die from an overdose. You know, none of us. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And I need a favor from my Facebook people and my YouTube family. I need you guys to hit the like button and the share button. Send it to somebody. Tag someone. This is some life and death information. It's not all about always about crime. People laying on the ground with a bullet in them and car turned over and all that. It's about community. And I'm bringing a new content to our community on this podcast and on my platform. And she's going to give us a quick demonstration and all that. And I'm gonna slide out the camera so she can do her thing. Go ahead, you could talk to them and show them you.
Hey, everybody, once again, before I do the demonstration on how to use Narcan, I just want to talk a little bit. You know, you heard me talk about how we were here with the city of Chicago and a number of other agencies that built these kits yesterday. This is actually what we use, the Exalazine kit we pass out on the street to those individuals who are still actively using drugs so that they can test the drug to make sure that the Exalazine isn't in it before they shoot it up. And then this is the fentanyl test kit. Same thing. This is the check to see if fentanyl is in the substance that they're using. Because once again, our ultimate goal is to save lives, help a person stay on track until they're ready to get the treatment that they need so that they can become productive members of society. Now, this is Narcan. This is what the guys and the young ladies are on the street passing out. One young lady said she saw the bus truck out today passing out Narcan. Narcan is an antagonizer that is used to block overdoses. And what happens is that when a person who is actually experiencing an overdose, if you had this Narcan in your possession, you could actually take it out the kit. What you would do is you would take this. First, again, I have to say this. You check to see if they're unresponsive. If they don't respond to you, check their color, check their breathing. If you see that they're not really, they're unalert and they need help, you take this out of the package. You take this, you insert it into their first nostril, and it's a little plunger at the bottom. You just push the plunger, and it will actually reverse an overdose. And
So if they don't get a response on the first one, you can try it again, get another one.
Yes. So it's like this. So this is it. This is what it looks like. You just take it, you push it, and that's one dose. So that's done. That's over with. If they're unresponsive, you wait 2 to 3 minutes. If they're still unresponsive, have someone call 911. Then you take another one and you insert it in the other nostril. Same way, put it in the nostril, release it, and wait. Once again, if they're unresponsive and you got more, you give them additional Narcan until the EEMTs come. Because what we discovered is that they may have got a batch of Exalazine or fentanyl that is a lot more potent, and they need more than one. I know someone has been given up to 8 doses of Narcan to revise them. Once again, you heard me say that I have a brother that's a recovering, he's in recovery now, y'all, 2 years. That's a blessing that I saved his life. And after I saved his life, guys, he went back to the hospital, had some in his wallet. He used it while he was in the hospital and actually overdosed in the bed. Well, the hospital actually administered 8 doses to bring him back to life. Once again, the substance attaches itself to the receptacles in our brain. The Narcan goes in and block the opiates from the receptacles to revise them to bring them back to life. And that's how you use it.
Mm, mm, mm. This is wonderful. This is people. This is real, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Is there anything else that you forgot? Let's talk about real quick. We didn't really go much on the HIV/AIDS in the community. You hit it on a little bit, but let's talk about you also service that community too as well.
I worked for the county some years back.
Uh-huh.
I was a coordinator of all the substance use services for HIV/AIDS patients. And what we did was we practiced harm reduction with them as well. And the reason why we practiced harm reduction, and we knew that they were using, but we wanted to keep them close so that we ensured that they came and took their medicine, that they had condoms, and so that they would not spread the virus. Now, at one particular time, we were talking about HIV and the impact it had on the African American community, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like this hush. Well, I need to tell you guys that it hasn't went anywhere. I need to tell you that African Americans is number
Shame.
one,
Yeah.
highest, we have the highest rate of HIV/AIDS, I know, in the city of Chicago and probably all over the country, but I know for sure in the city of Chicago. So we need to be as vigilant about Narcan, opioid addiction, as we are about HIV. So if you're not putting on a jacket, I suggest you do. Ladies, if you don't know anything about denodams and what you need to do and female condoms, well, you need to be using those too. You know, oftentimes you hear people talk about they want it in a raw and stuff like that. Well, it's always, once again, better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so continue to use condoms, continue to protect yourself because they're not talking about it like we once was. But we need to continue to talk about anything that it impacts the African American community. Look at it, y'all. We got the highest hypertension. We got the highest rate of diabetes. We got the highest rate of hep C. We got the highest rate of opioid overdoses, the highest rate of HIV. Come on, y'all. When are we going to become responsible and do what it is that we need to do to protect our community and be here for our children and our children's children? I mean, it's just something for us to think about.
Wow, this has been an amazing interview, and people, please share this video. Please share. It's a matter of life and death. She's dropping some jewels on us, and this live feed can share, help someone, save someone's life, and share information with others. Parents, you need to sit your children down and have a discussion with them and watch the video and learn from the professional.
Please do. And Keisha, I saw you tell me hi. How you doing? Yeah. Yeah, please share this because it's really good information, guys. And if we want to be here, you know, I studied under a doctor from Ghana, West Africa, Dr. Menza. I'm a rites of passage facilitator as well. And, you know, doing one of the studies, he talked about it may come a time, and I don't know how you all think about this. And he said you might have to go to a museum to see what an actual African American looked like by the year 2050.
Ooh.
That's alarming. When he said it, now he said this back like in 2000, and I was like in the 90s. That we're talking about just like the latter part of the 90s. So 2000. So we're talking about what, 25 years ago this man said that? But look at what's going on. We got to hit the highest rate of everything.
By design.
What Keisha say? Yeah, female condoms for the downloads. Yeah. You're right, Keisha. You're absolutely right. But yeah, we got to take this thing serious, y'all. You know, it's one thing for us to want to have a good time and party and dress nice and live in the best communities and have the best. But it's another thing to protect your community, to protect your children, to stay healthy, to live long enough so you can pass some jewels, as Martin said, down through your bloodline. So you got to get educated about what's impacting your community and what it is that you need to do to get better and make it a better community?
Somebody said, but that's another.
That's what I want to know. Why?
Yeah. Why black people have always have the highest rate of everything? That's another show, people.
And we just talked about it.
Yeah.
Uneducated, uninformed,
Mhm.
and oftentimes you don't care. Let's just keep it real.
Tell the truth and shame the devil. That's so true. That's so true. People, I'm trying to cut off. I know she got to take grandson to the show, and I don't want him to be mad at me. If he listening to watch it, don't be mad at me, grandson. All right. So again, I want to thank Teamwork Inglewood for sponsoring this podcast. I want to thank Miss Lee of Walanza.
Walanza.
I want to say it correctly. Thank you for allowing me to come here and visit and see your wonderful facilities. And it's so opening. And thank you for inviting me to
You're
come
welcome.
back.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
And Mark, I want to thank you for even suggesting that we do this piece. I'm so happy that you came and that you are really supportive of the work we're doing. And then thank you, Martin, for taking the time to come so that we can share this information out and we can spread the word and that we can become responsible and take ownership, because nobody's going to take care of our community better than we are. Nobody can do it better than we can. And we got to get to that point and really clearly understand that our community is our responsibility. You know, we can blame it on the man and the white man, and we've been doing that for years. But they've already shown us, the man or whoever, what they think of us. Because as this young lady just said, we got the highest everything. So what does that mean? We got to take ownership and we got to take responsibility.
Something we forgot. I forgot to show your logo. And I'm going to try to bring it up real quick, is if it's okay with you.
Of course it is.
Okay, let me bring it up real quick and show a logo. All right, that's a logo right there, South Side.
So let me tell you guys a little bit about this logo. This logo comes from it's an Adinka symbol that comes out of Ghana, West Africa. And what it represents and what it means, if you see the center, there's a cross. It means that the king has his eye on you, which means that God is covering us and keeping us. But this symbol also represents vigilance, perseverance, power, interdependency, pride. It has so many meanings, which is why I chose this particular symbol. It was only one symbol, but I chose 4 to create balance, because there's a word called miat, which means balance. It talks about the God spirit, the Father spirit, the ancestor spirit, and the mother spirit that has to come together in order for us to be congruent. That's why we have 4. And if you notice, we have like a lot of little heads around. That's the community. And we're together and we're holding each other up. And that is what's so important. So it took me a few months to find this symbol, and it is pronounced Oniki. Oniki.
And what does that mean?
What it means is vigilance. It means perseverance. It means that God has his eye on us. It means independent. It means pride. It represents power. It has so many meanings, which is why that particular symbol was selected.
All right. Thank you so much. You already know what it is. This is live, uncut, unedited. Let me see if I get it on. Let me see.
You already know what it is.
Yes.
Live, uncut, unedited. Tell the truth
And what?
and shame the devil.
And I love
being black.
Thank you so much. Thank you, people, for tuning in. Make sure you share the video. I want to thank my wonderful Facebook family, my wonderful YouTube family. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a Friday night. You could be doing a lot of other things besides watching us on this podcast, but we appreciate you. Thank you. Hopefully, some was done to save someone's life and give somebody some information to help the next person. And we really don't know what a person going through until we walk into their own shoes.
That's right.
That's true.
That's so true.
That's so true.
That's so true.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, people, I got to get out of here. Peace.